Hello everybody, this is Hip316 and today I'm doing a wrestling video, or has to do with wrestling. Um, as you can tell, as you can tell, I'm doing it about the wonderful Al Stowe. And I do say wonderful because he is a good guy. He is one of my favorite ECW wrestlers of all time. Definitely gimmicks. I really love the head gimmick. That was just so incredibly awesome. And I think it was one of the best gimmicks of all time. I cannot say anything higher about Al Stowe. And as far as his wrestling gimmicks and abilities, overall, just him as being a professional wrestler. I have tremendous respect for him. However, there were some comments that he made, kind of farther back, about a couple months ago, I believe, about his feelings towards professional wrestling fans. And I gotta tell you, this side of Al Stowe I did not like. And let me start off by saying that, like I said, Al Stowe, professional wrestler, could not like him anymore if I tried. Okay? I think people like Mick Foley and other people like that would agree with you, since Mick Foley mentions Al Stowe like every 5 seconds. You know, he loves, he's a mark for Al Stowe. And I mean, I can't really blame him. But yeah, he made some comments about professional wrestling fans. And me, being a professional wrestling fan, I needed to comment on him. Now, I was going to play the video, but I was thinking, you know what? If you are interested in this, I suggest you find a reputable source. And I got a couple that I'm going to put in the description. So if you want to watch them, you can. But essentially, this is what he said. Conversation started off with about TNA and about whether it should exist or not. And he basically said that it was important that it existed, that it helped wrestlers and stuff, and that it was important that it stayed around. And then he goes on further about the fads, about how fads basically don't understand the business, that it's all assumption, analytical stuff, that they're just assuming what the business is because they form opinions, and that these opinions hurt wrestlers. They hurt the business as a whole, because what the fans is essentially doing are making assumptions about stuff that they don't understand. Now, there's more to the conversation, and I'm not trying to quote everything that he said, just the gist of what he said. And let me start off by saying this. Okay, as far as the TNA situation is concerned, TNA did this to themselves. Why did they do this to themselves? Because they wanted to be like Ted Turner. Alright? They wanted to start a new Monday Night War. That's why they brought in Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. And I believe it was around, I think it was 2010, I believe. Okay, the reason that they did this is because they weren't pushing the regular roster, or maybe what it was also is that maybe they pushed them as far as they thought that they could, and basically what happened is that they wanted to be exactly like Ted Turner and wanted to compete with the WWE on a global market and start and reignite the Monday Night War. Well, I can tell you, and of course, time has told you, as you know, that didn't work out too good. Okay? So, you can bring up the fact about Dixie Carter. I actually got a tweet, or I believe it was a tweet. It was something from Dixie Carter, and she talked to me, some jabroni, and I thought that was very nice. I think that she's a sweet woman. I also got a shout out from Eric Bischoff too. Of course, it was an argument. I was just trying to troll him a little bit, and he actually responded back. But the point is that Dixie Carter is a nice woman. However, from all intents and purposes, and from the shoot interviews that I've seen of other wrestlers talking about her, she's just too nice. Okay, she doesn't understand that, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's true that I am a wrestling fan, but I can tell you from being around the business, because I have been around the business. I'm not certainly anything like TNA, but I've been around small independent feds such as APW, and one that will go unmentioned, but that's because of personal deals of the people. So I don't want to give them a pop because I don't like them very much. But being around those places. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's nothing to do with APW. It has to do with the other Fed that I was in. But to tell, basically, wrestling is run by assholes. Okay? Vince McMahon had a good quote that if you are basically a booker or running a federation and you're not an asshole, you're not doing your job right. Because wrestling, unfortunately, and I'm not saying all of wrestling, I'm just saying the great majority, especially the corporate stuff, is run by assholes. Okay? They have to make a buck, and they're not very friendly, and they don't care who they hurt. Okay? That's the deal with them. So I just don't think Dixie Carter had the chops, or the, as far as I mean with the chops, I mean like the embodiment to run a wrestling business. That's why I think she brought in people like Eric Bischoff, and I'm not calling Eric Bischoff an asshole. Now, he was in the past, there's no doubt about it, and I respect the person, just like I respect Paul Heyman, but he'd be the first one to tell you too that he was a bit of an asshole. I mean, not so much as I think Eric Bischoff, but you have to have that toughness, that like, well, I'm the boss, this is how things are going to be run type deal. So that's with that. So that's understanding what that is. Okay? Now, you go to somebody. Okay. We go to why TNA fell apart. Now, I like TNA. I went to one of the house shows in Bakersfield, California. Very fun time. Had a blast. Okay? It was a great experience. I cannot say anything negative about that time that I went to go see TNA in Bakersfield. Okay? It was great. It was great. The talent was there. Everything was there. But when you are trying to go up against Vince McMahon, I don't care whether you have 90 networks, $300 trillion, you are going to have to be prepared. And you are going to have to go to war with Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon, what he did in the independent circuits in the 80s, what he did is he transformed the wrestling business. Okay? That's what he did. But he had to do it ruthlessly. Okay? He took all those territorial wrestling products and he basically said, you know what? I'm running my own stuff. You're not allowed to do this. This is not going to happen anymore. Blah, 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 blah. And it fell apart. But he did that so he could make wrestling from being in smoky, beer drinking, 80 people National Guard armories into what we have today, which is the Staples Center, Madison Square Garden, you name your, stadium or arena. That's what he wanted to do. Okay? Now that's something that the David Crockett Promotions would try to later do. And they did that with some success, especially around 84, 85. That's in the heyday of the Four Horsemen. That's what they tried to do. But, the limited success. But I'm not going to go on all day about it. So that's what I feel. Dixie Carter tried to be Ted Turner, and it didn't work out. So that was no fault of the fans, Al Snow. That had to do with TNA internal management. Okay? Not the fans. So that's my rebuttal on that part. Okay? Now the second part is that essentially what Al Snow is trying to say is that since wrestling fans aren't in the business, wrestling fans don't understand the ins and outs, and that basically they're just going under assumptions, and they don't understand what it is to go inside of a ring and be in a match and understand the psychology and understand this, and that this ultimately hurts wrestling. Now, I'm going to start off with point one on that. My first point: everybody is entitled to their opinion. Okay? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. That's a stupid expression. What do you think this country was based on? Free speech. To express the way that you feel. Okay? Without being subjugated, without being told that you can't say that. That is the fundamental basis of what this country was based on. And really any free country. Okay? Now, the second point is that out of everything, people have their opinions about everything. Even you all know. You have your opinions on stuff, okay? I was watching a second interview that he was talking about it with JR, and he was saying that he's a big fan of medical stuff, and he goes on, the online, what was it called, VR doctor or whatever it's called, and that he tries to diagnose his stuff and blah 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 blah, and that he is not a medical doctor. But I have to say, you do have opinions about things, huh? Medical and stuff, but you're not a doctor, but you are allowed to have those opinions, right? But what he said, what Al Snow is saying is that we as wrestling fans can have those opinions, but he can basically have opinions about medical stuff But he's contradicting himself because he's not a doctor, is he? So I think it's a bit hypocritical that he's saying that we can't have opinions because we're not in the wrestling business. Now I can tell you, I've been in the wrestling business. Okay, it's the wrestlers don't care whether you have opinions. Okay, they don't care if you do or you don't. And that's what I'm trying to say. Some of them want to hear it. Some of them don't want to hear it. That just goes with personality, okay? Some people are more open to listen to other people than other people are, they're not so open. And so, yeah. In every sport, there is an opinion about football, baseball, basketball, golf, tennis, the Olympics. All of them, people have opinions about. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't hear a basketball player go, well, this person said this to me on the internet, and therefore that person doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Now, it may happen to some, but not all. Some people can actually take criticism and can take other people's opinions and not have a problem with it. But I think Al Snow is a very headstrong type person. And I think he's not aggressive like mean, but he's just a very excited person. And I think he took people's opinions on TNA and other wrestling related products and says, well, I'm running a training school and, therefore my opinion on wrestling matters more than the next guy who says something about wrestling. Which is completely BS. I'm sorry, man. It is. Okay, now going on to the next part of what he was saying. He was saying something. He said along the lines of kayfabe. Now, for those of you that don't know, kayfabe was a way back before the internet days that wrestlers protected the business. Like if you were a heel, a bad guy, right? You wouldn't go out and sign autographs and be all friendly to the people, If you were a babyface, you wouldn't get a ride with somebody who was, a heel. Because if somebody saw that, it would ruin the business, or, quote, ruin the business. I saw the Iron Sheik documentary not too long ago, and it was mentioned about Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik getting busted because the Iron Sheik had cocaine and marijuana. And Vince told Jim Duggan, what have you done to us? Because back then kayfabe was still very much alive. And this was like in 86, 87. And, yeah, basically Iron Sheik got blackballed, but they kind of messed up because he did come back later on in 91 with the Hulk Hogan, the Iraqi, the Sergeant Slaughter angle. So he did come back for that. Anyway, my point is this. He was saying that kayfabe should basically be alive today, but because of the internet, people have all these opinions, and that affects the people behind the scenes, the writers and stuff, and that they're and the wrestlers, and that they're basically pandering to a small majority of wrestlers. I think he meant the term smart marks, which is basically, people like, that was back in the, a few years ago that wanted Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble. And he didn't win, of course, but they, say, oh, you should make him champion, you should win the Royal Rumble. Those types of people. So they're very vocal You know, your Daniel Bryan fans, your CM Punk fans. Um, and he was saying that those people basically control wrestling through their opinions and things. Um, to a certain extent, that is true. But you have to understand something. The internet is not the problem. Basically, even before the internet, when they had wrestling magazines, kayfabe was pretty much dying because in wrestling magazines they had interviews. They exposed, and not all those interviews were shoot interviews. Okay, they exposed things about the business. Okay, not as much as the internet. Now, but when the internet came out, it was this revolutionary new technology, and this technology, you know, started in small message boards, and then it went on to forums, and it went on to YouTube videos, and nobody knew where this was going. But eventually, it blossomed into what we have now. You can go on your phone and express your opinion. You can go on your phone and watch a video. You can do all these things. And as I said before, wrestlers themselves, wrestling magazines, behind the scenes videos, there's plenty of videos back in the day was like how to become a wrestler, blah blah blah, those types of deals. Okay, that helped destroy kayfabe. I'm not saying the internet has no responsibility in destroying kayfabe. What I'm saying is that you cannot just blame the internet alone. Okay, if somebody has a tool to do something with, especially when they're paying for it, I mean, short of, making threats on the president or saying Hitler was right or doing something really bad, people can do whatever the hell they want. Say whatever they want. Okay? You can't stop that, Al Snow. No matter how much you want to. And I understand where you're coming from. You want it to be like it was back in the day. Back in maybe the mid to late 80s. Or maybe the early 90s. But even in the early 90s, man, I was just watching a Northern Exposure episode where Ruth Ann's son had a laptop and was hooked up to the internet. And that was back in 1992. It blew my freaking mind. And by the way, yes, I love Northern Exposure. I know I'm old, whatever. I love the show. My point is this. You cannot change the present and you cannot change the future. Okay? No matter how much you want to, and I understand where you're coming from, Al Snow, but you can't do that. Time has to go on. Okay? And the product is the reflection of the people who watch it. It just is. Now, maybe not in the territorial days, but certainly when they were doing pay-per-views, after that, it became a reflection of what people wanted. Okay? That's just it. If there's no, if this isn't something that somebody wants to see, you can't force it down their throat and say, and that's a problem with stuff like Roman Reigns. Force it down people's throats, and people are not going to have that. They're just not. I'm sorry, they're not going to have that. That's just the way it is. And, yeah. You cannot let the genie out of the bottle. You just can't. So, basically, I'm going to finish up by saying this. Al Snow. and summarizing everything and making it one simple thing. TNA did that to themselves, okay? By going up against Vince in a war that they were unprepared to fight, okay? People in a free world have the right to express their opinions however they wish, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, okay? People have the right to have opinions about their favorite things, whether it's Game of Thrones or Legos or 420 or Superman or wrestling or whatever it may be. They have the right to their opinions. They do. Okay? We live in a free country, in a free world. You cannot stand by kayfabe anymore. Kayfabe is dead. Okay? Now, for better or for worse, it's gone. In the territorial days, it might have worked great. Okay? But in the age we live in, where information is just a click away, whether you have a computer or cellular phone or an iPad or whatever it may be, you cannot stop the flow of information. And you cannot censor people that have opinions on things, or try to say that they're wrong for expressing those opinions. You cannot. Just because you are a wrestler and that other people aren't and haven't been in the business and don't know the ins and outs behind the scenes, that doesn't mean that their opinion is less valid than yours. Okay? It's actually more meaningful. Because when you hear somebody's opinion, you go, maybe they have a point. Maybe we can change a few aspects here and there. Maybe we can improve ourselves. Maybe we didn't see something that was right in front of us. Maybe if you listen to those people, maybe it'd make the product, and this is revolutionary, better. It would make it, I think, better. Because it's constructive criticism. Now, whether you choose to accept this or not, there are wrestling fans that aren't quote-unquote smart marks. Okay? There are wrestling fans like me that have opinions on stuff, but we don't shove it down anybody's face. I think you're focusing on a very small minority of wrestling fans. You've been watching like extreme YouTube videos about extreme people with their extreme opinions, or whatever it may be. Maybe you go on message forums and see these crazy people write things about whoever, and you think that that is the majority of wrestling fans. But I have to tell you, that is not the reality of things. That's not what people are actually like, the majority of them. And to finish up, Al Snow, you have the right to an opinion. I have a right to an opinion. I respect the hell out of you, man. I really have. I think the whole ECW head thing was one of the best gimmicks of all time. Bar none. Bar freaking none. I respect you as a wrestler. But as a person outside of the business, I think you need to wise up, and as another great wrestler, D'Lo Brown, would say, you better recognize who the hell I am. I am a passionate, old school, hardcore wrestling fan that's been there since '84. It's been there through the cartoon era of WWE. Who's been there through the Monday Night Wars. That's been there when I first saw ECW on Route 66 TV. And beyond until now. Okay? I loved wrestling. I defended wrestling when people made fun of it. And yes, I think the word fake is very disrespectful, but that's a whole nother rant. You need to hear people like me that care about the business, that give constructive criticism without hurting a writer or a wrestler or a valet or a manager or anybody in between behind the scenes. It's called constructive criticism. And I have the right to say what I want in a respectful and courteous manner. And if you choose to blame the fall of TNA on wrestling fans, that's a whole other thing. But to say that wrestling fans have no right for opinions, that is totally wrong. And you can hate wrestling fans. But, I mean, essentially what you're doing is hurting yourself. But you can hate wrestling fans if you so choose. I'm not telling you to convert. I'm not telling you to say, you know, or to say, oh, well, I said this, but now I really meant that. You can hate the wrestling fans. I mean, that's on you. But to say we don't have an opinion and that we're not entitled to an opinion, that is, with all due respect, one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life. And really, you should, at the least, reevaluate some of your positions, and at the most, be absolutely ashamed of yourself for disrespecting people who has followed not only you, but the companies that you worked for before you even had a wrestling school, who put money into your wallet, who cheered for you, and who even booed for you. You should be ashamed that you even uttered the words, I hate wrestling fans. You should be ashamed of yourself, I think. Like I said, my opinion of you will not change as a wrestler, but as a person, I think perhaps you need to spend some time away from wrestling and evaluate your opinions and, most importantly, yourself. Now, that is all really I had to say about this subject. I will start doing more wrestling content. This will be in my rants section playlist. If you like this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to join my Twitter page, it's new_hemp316. new_hemp316 for my Twitter. My Tumblr, hemp316, and my Patreon, hemp316. So, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I want all of you to have a fantastic day. Goodbye, guys.